in Mikmak Abakamit. And so I'm going to be conducting the ceremony today on behalf of the Algonquin people of this land, this territory. It includes the Wandoanocs on this side, and specifically the Massapequa people here, and then the Rinnegantok people over that way, all Algonquin. And so I'm going to sprinkle tobacco here for these trees to bless them first of all. Great Spirit. Okay, now the Canarsie people, and again we say that the Massapequa people here believed to be Canarsie and are identified with that. So here's the Canarsie prayer, because the Canarsie people were one that believed in something called the Great Tree of Life. The Great Tree of Life was not necessarily one you would see here physically, but it was maybe in the spirit world you'd see a great tree, but it was really a concept. Just like we talk about the river of life, it's not an actual river. But we know when we look at the world, we see the river of life, and this used to be a river of life, and now it's a river of death, and we're going to change that. But also we're planting trees because, we're going to be planting trees all over Queens and Brooklyn, and a tree will grow in Brooklyn again. Itawung Hausunk, the great tree of life. And so this is a prayer of thanks to Chitawung Hausunk. Great tree of life, we thank you. Chitawung Hausunk, Monok, Arumshimok. Arumshimok is thank you. Can we all say Arumshimok?
Arumshimok.
You're now speaking Canarsie language for the first time in probably 400 years, 300 years. Thank you for trees, Arumshimok Wuche Tuk, and for timber that grows tall, Kwa Patuk, Ganke Gowankiti. And for the firewood we look for in winter, Kwa Root Watak Monok Atium Batamin Pabus. Grandfather, I greet you. Numsunk Wonk. Thank you for the beautiful leaves, Arumshimok Werepag. The red leaves of the maple tree, Squeopog, Squeopasunk. Squeopasunk is the maple. It means that the leaves are the color of blood. I play it in the manner of birds so that we hope and pray that those who get these trees and adopt these orphan trees and will plant them, and then birds will nest in them and make your life filled with joy. So I also sing a welcome song that was sung coastally all up and down the coast as a welcome song among the Algonquin people, which would include the Canarsie. It goes like this. You-eh-hi-ya, hey, you-eh-hi-ya, you-eh-hi-ya, hey, you-eh-hi-ya, way-hi-ya, hey-yo-yo, way-hi-ya, hey-yo, you-eh-hi, way-hi-hi-yo. So it's good to learn this song because you see, according to the beliefs of the Algonquin people, that long ago the Canarsie, the Rinnegantok Canarsie over here, and also here in the land of the Massapequa people, of the Wandoanocs, the people who would, at an ancient age, would dedicate themselves to watching over the land and would remain here forever, so that even we today can contact them through spirit, and they can help us to preserve the land, because that's their only mission, is to help preserve the land. And the ones here are especially grieved because of what's happened in this creek, and they are behind you 100%, and they will even help you. According to our belief, they will help you even in your personal endeavors because of what you're doing here. So we say this welcome song to welcome them, because I'll recognize the song. That's according to Algonquin beliefs. So I want you to join me in singing it. It's you-eh-hi-ya, hey you-eh-hi-ya. hi-ya, hey, hi-ya. Hi-ya, hey, hi-ya. Way hi-ya, hey, yo, yo, way hi-ya, hey, yo. Hi, way hi, yo. A little bit louder, a little bit higher. Hi-ya, hey, hi-ya. Hi-ya, hey, hi-ya. Way hi-ya, hey, yo, yo, way hi-ya, hey, yo. Hi, way hi. One more time. Hi-ya, hey, hi-ya. Hi-ya, hey, hi-ya. Way hi-ya, hey, yo, yo, way hi-ya, hey, yo. Way hi, yo, way. Okay, thank you. Now, a very important part of any tree planting or giving away, and this is a giveaway, is also a part. You've heard of the potlatch as a form of giveaway. And
this is a very special flag because it was actually drawn by Pete Seeger himself, and Pete Seeger didn't want anything named after him, but he had described himself as a river singer once. So we thought this was a great chance to honor him in a way that would be modest enough for his taste. But you'll see he wrote this, "Keep my waters clean, mouthed by a fish." So anyway, that was drawn by Pete Seeger himself. So that was a very special flag for us because we have a wonderful art director, Caroline, and volunteers here who made our other flags. But this one was by Pete Seeger himself. Oh, and then, I'm sorry, and then go around. You want to go to my right side, and then we'll pass it over to Caroline.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I splashed this flag.
Bernie Enti was a member of the Newtown Creek Alliance board. He was a board member. He was a photographer who dedicated himself to the Newtown Creek, and a lot of the life that we see in the creek today, most people weren't aware of it until Bernie Enti obsessively photographed the creek, and he captured so much bird life and shellfish and things like that that just nobody else had expected to see in the Newtown Creek, and that inspired people to care about the creek enough to actually try to revive it. And they saw that there was a pulse, there was something worth saving. So we're grateful to Bernie. He died a few years ago, and so this flag is actually based upon a green heron photograph he took that was one of my favorite photographs of the creek. It was another famous environmentalist, author of Silent Spring. She was actually a marine biologist, and a lot of people forget that. So we represented her with this oceanic egg, because Silent Spring was about how DDT spraying was weakening the eggshells of birds and causing populations to crash. And today we recognize that the ocean itself is as fragile as an egg compared to our industrial society. So we saw the connection between her marine biology and her work to save the birds in this one symbol of the oceanic egg. So we're grateful to Rachel Carson for her pioneering work in popularizing the environmental movement for the modern age.
And also, she carried a disease that was caused by...
Yes, and also she was a victim of cancer, as was Bernie. And so often cancers are, if not caused, but certainly encouraged by environmental factors.
So she never got to live long enough to see all that came out of her work, but we are here to defend that. So this is tobacco, getting this, and there's a place, oh, hello, over what's called the West Village. It used to be called Sappohannocken. I give tours of Sappohannocken because there's so many sites. Sapeo is tobacco, and it was grown all around here, various places where the soil was rich. And they used it as an exchange, spirit, as an offering, but also to purify the water. There's a woman, goddess spirit of the waters. Her name means she will take you down under if you're not careful. And that's especially true here in this creek, Newtown Creek. So we offer the tobacco whenever we're crossing the creek to ask for her blessing so that nothing will happen to us. So I think it's very appropriate. So I'm asking everybody to take a little tobacco. But also we believe that the tobacco heals the waters. And there are other herbs. There are 4 sacred herbs: sweetgrass, sage, cedar, and tobacco. And any of them will help to cure the waters. So, Sheila, put your hand. And okay. And Did you hear that, sir? So I'll hold the tobacco, this FAO, and we can put it in the water, and our belief is that it's actually a blessing to purify the water. And there's a blessing song that was sung here in this region by the Delawarean people. It goes like this: Shile hey down o day oh hey, 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 Shuge shuge eyoskute uda 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 ode, Shile hey down o day oh hey, Shuge shuge. Hey, yoskote, boda, 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 bode, chile, hey, down, days. As you can see, this is all coming up from the ocean, up the East River, and into here. So it's a hikan. You can all say hikan, and that's where we are now. So I want to go over and, as we're paddling along on Muhul, our dugout canoes here, because they would be using dugout canoes. They were too heavy to carry. They were very, very heavy. So if you got to a waterfall, you kind of had to just leave them there, tie them up, and let other people use them. And they would ferry across here. If there was a trail and you'd have something like this Maspeth Creek, they would just have a couple of muhuls around, and people would use them communally, and then leave them at the shore respectfully for the next person. And the only thing in our very kind of property-oriented society that we're in, where everybody has to own the same thing. The only place that we let our hair down this way is with shopping carts. When you go to the big grocery stores, maybe out in the suburbs, people just leave the shopping carts, and then other people use them, and back and forth, and so there's no scarcity in there. And so a lot of the muhuls were just, since you couldn't steal them because they were too heavy, they just leave them there, and the next person would use them. And some people would ferry across and would do this and actually trade for that. And so somebody would come down to the end of a pathway with a long pole with a flag, a white flag, of just a piece of cloth, and wave it. And then the ferry person, the ferry boat man, would come in a muhul, and he'd say, give me a little something, and I'll take you across. And so it might be beads, it might be some wampum, it might be some furs, and then he would take them across the other side. It wouldn't be much, it would just be a little something. One of them here we say is Querin, to offer tobacco, because that means the great gathering place. And here we have a small gathering, but someday maybe future generations will have larger gatherings here. Uskus Cuello means it is in the state of being green. And I want to mention that in the Algonquin languages, all colors are verbs. And I remember when I first learned this, it was very confusing to me. How can a color be a verb? I mean, an automobile, it's green, it stays green, right? You know, a can of paint starts green, stays green. But I realized there was a reason why all colors are verbs, is because in nature, color is constantly changing according to what you do and according to what the weather does and what time does. So grass changes the color green all the time. If you're standing here and you're looking straight down that word and you look beyond, you'd be looking straight at the intersection of Kings Highway and Flatbush Avenue, right over there, and not very far. And that was where Chief Sesse's house was. That's where the First Church of the Flatlands still stands. And so you can get in touch with the history, because when that building was built, the Canarsie people just moved slightly to the side. They didn't go away. It was all equality. It was all had to do with parity between the two races. It was like the Two-Row Wampum Treaty, where people are acting as equals. And yeah, so this is probably the most important one, and I'll do it myself. I offer tobacco to the spirit of this river, the Maspeth River and the Maspeth people. And Sackatook, this is the trail of the Sachems. So Maspeth, some people say the great brook with tides, but that doesn't really make sense. But many, Tucker, for example, a great anthropologist, said the bad water place. In other words, don't drink the water. And there. Okay, so this represents where we are now, and we canoed from over here, moved to over here, as where we are standing. And the monument to the tribes is over here. And these two little tributaries are gone now. And this is the Sachem Trail that we're talking about, probably over this way, along these. This is the Dutch Kill. And it actually doesn't go very far. A little tiny island here, which no longer exists. And then go up English Kills, and then the Little Kill. This way, the English Kill goes all the way up here, where there was a big island, but probably very swampy. But in summertime, in dry days, the Sachems might meet here because they would prefer islands in order to meet. All this is all probably turned into sewers now. These things, literally, they turn them into sewers, and that beautiful island is gone. So that maybe can't be restored, but you can at least get an idea of what the waterways were like and how they all interacted. And again, this is all like here, the Rhône, or the tributary, and here going into the the swampy area that all the East River was, and this would all be part of that. As when I say in closing, the Canarsie were some of the best of the ocean-going traders, and they had 22-foot long or longer of the mahuls, of the boats made out of tulip trees, and they would go far distances in the ocean and also on land. And at the footing of the Brooklyn Bridge, when it was being built, they found a gorget from Lake Superior copper that was in Canarsie territory. But they went all over North America, and we find that in the archaeological record, items have been traded from hundreds of miles away. And they did this to their mastery of these kind of canoes that they built. And so they would have been proud of their rivers and tributaries, especially this one in their own home territory near their principal Sachem seat. And so it's for them too. We want to clean up this river. So let's hear it for the Canarsie.